Okay. Good evening. Welcome. So great to see everyone here. So welcome to the Perez Art Museum, Miami. My name's Marie Vickles. I'm the Director of Education, and I'd like to thank you all for joining us, both here at the museum and also those of you that are watching live on YouTube tonight. Thank you. So we're here tonight for Art Talk, Marcela Cantuária in conversation with Jennifer Inacio. Tonight, we celebrate the opening of our newly commissioned exhibition, Marcela Cantuária, The South American Dream, and we'll present a conversation with exhibition curator Jennifer Inacio as she and Marcela discuss the creation of her first solo show in the United States, presenting artwork made specifically for our Double Height Gallery. Following tonight's conversation, if you haven't already, I encourage you to stop by the exhibition space located on our second floor. The galleries will be open until 9 p.m. Before we begin our program, I'd also like to thank and acknowledge the incredible team of people that work to produce our PAM education programs. Big thank yous go out to Anita Bram, Associate Director of Adult and Public Programs, Janessa Melendez, Education Coordinator, and our world-class audio-visual team, Denise Faxis, Andrew Bird, and Lazaro Yanis on video and cameras. We literally could not do this without you all, so thank you. Clap it up. Okay, and now introductions of our featured speakers. Jennifer Inacio is an associate curator at the Perez Art Museum, Miami. In addition to the curation of Marcela Cantuária's first U.S. solo exhibition, The South American Dream, Jennifer has also curated exhibitions that include Yayo Kusama, Love is Calling, Simone Lee, Trophallaxis, 2022, Felipe Mujica, The Swaying Motions on the Bank of the River Falls, 2021, My Body, My Rules, 2020, and the museum's first augmented reality exhibition, Felice Grodin, Invasive Species, which was on view from 2017 through 2022. Jennifer holds a master's in contemporary art theory from Goldsmiths, University of London. Marcela Cantuária lives and works in Rio de Janeiro and studied art at the Federal University of Rio. Marcela develops paintings that intertwine historical images from the world of politics with representations of contemporary visual culture. Part of her pictorial inventions come from her research on the struggles waged by women around the world. Her work combines history, memory, and utopia in a dialogue with social movements and popular uprisings. Marcela has adopted figuratism to transform her ideas, wishes, and concerns into pictorial narratives that rescue the richness of painting as an artistic expression beyond the drive of art market logic. And above all, she is a painter that rescues the desire of an entire generation that seeks greater socio-political engagement in her country of Brazil, where this discourse was interrupted with the advent of dictatorships between the 1960s and 1980s, and again, more recently, with political unrest and conservative pro-oligarchic governance. Thus, Marcela's work is not only beautiful and engaged, but also necessary. The necessity of her subject matter expands beyond portraiture or historical painting, as she seeks to create big narratives, searching for meetings with the past, with what is happening now, and the future possibilities. We will have a moment for questions at the end of tonight's program. So if you are joining us on YouTube, please post your comments, questions in the comment section as you watch along. And in the audience, we will be passing a mic. And we'll try to get to as many questions as possible. All right, so now, without further ado, please join me in giving a warm welcome to Marcela Cantuária and Jennifer Inacio.
Get arranged here. Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for coming, for being here tonight, and for being at such an important day for Marcela, for me, for Pam. It's the opening of her show tonight. As we've been talking and writing everywhere, it's Marcela's first U.S. solo show, institutional show, and also her first institutional show outside of Brazil. So it's a really important moment, but also, for us at PAM here, being a platform for artists and bringing their voices outside of their country so it can dialogue with our audience, and also with commission works. As a curator, love working with artists and helping developing the idea, and it was just a pleasure. So I want to thank everyone, not only Marcela for being such an amazing artist to work with, and bringing her beautiful work here to the museum, and also everyone here at the team, the PAM team, who made this possible. People that are here tonight to making this conversation possible, but also people that work hard during the day to install the works and every logistics. So thanks, everyone. Now, to talk a little bit more about the exhibition. As we mentioned, this was a commissioned work, so we started talking for about a year ago and developing this idea together, what her works would mean here to be exhibited at the museum and how it could relate to our audience and our mission. And then, towards the end, we're going to be reviewing a couple of previous works too, just for the audience to understand how her work evolves and, dialogue with one another. But before we go into that, I do want to, focus on the exhibition that we have here that hopefully you saw. And on to the questions for Marcela. So, Marcela, I do want you to start talking and having this conversation today.
Everyone.
Good evening. And let's start talking about how this idea came up, how, when we were first talking and I invited and talked about the Double Height Gallery, what came up to you in your mind, and what were your initial thoughts and feelings in creating this exhibition here, because it is a challenging space. So talk to us a little bit about that.
So me and Jennifer started talking about the exhibition like past year, like February, like this.
Yes.
And for me, it was an honor, but also was like a challenge, a huge challenge, because the ceiling is so tall and high, and I was like worried, like the painting could be lost and his details, and it was a challenge. But yeah, we work about this, thinking about the main work, the South American dream, and how this work. Sorry, you can hear me, everybody?
No.
I'm sorry. Okay. Tá.
Solta aqui e segue com a boca.
Tá bom. First time. So, yeah. It was a big challenge at the first to think about the project. I was worried about the details, so I get lost of the painting, but I began to think about creating a space that would reinforce the presence of the paintings while creating a magical environment where we can imagine reaching the stars. But also, I began by thinking a lot about how my work could be interpreted outside of Brazilian context and what I could bring to an U.S. audience.
Yeah, and I think that's how, yes, thank you. I think that's how you came to the idea of the South American dream, right? And thinking about how your work would be read outside, because, and as we will see throughout the presentation, she tends to highlight a lot of figures, not only in Brazil, but Latin America, historical figures, activists that play such an important role in South America. And we talked a lot about how would these ideas and references that she has used throughout her career be read here in the U.S. So, and I remember us talking, we all know about what the American dream is. Everyone knows about that, what it stands for. And I remember you mentioning, what if I talk about the South American dream, or presenting my body of work and how it can dialogue with this idea of the South American dream. And I think that's how a lot of these ideas started coming up. So I would, if you can summarize your idea of what the South American dream is.
So I believe it's not only one dream, but it's like dreams, no? It's have a plurality. So I understand that South American dreams goes against of neoliberalism thoughts. Is this exhibition, like Jennifer said now, focus on envisioning people who fight for the dreams in South America. But I want to think about what kind of dreams do. What is these dreams? And as an artist from Global South, I believe we have another kind of thoughts. In my perspective, these dreams is about the rights of life, the popular sovereignty, and above all, the preservation of the Amazonian ecosystems, because life depends on water and the standing forest. So in this exhibition, I want to talk about those who remain in the territory and deal with all types of violence. And during the research process, I realized that, in a way, I am developing a kind of encyclopedia of women who fought for the Amazon. And these figures are not just from Brazil, but from other countries such as Colombia, Peru, Venezuela, which also share the Amazon forest. Well, and my main interest in painting is always like materialize the invisible from image of dreams and tarot archetypes to image of leaders who disappear, who went missing. Like, and I always looking for the image that the patriarchy and the wild capitalism tries to silence. So I create these paintings here with the intention of making visitors feel like they are in a lucid dream. And these paintings, there are figures with 3 faces, mythologic beings, a spiritual harvest, and like the animal of the world.
Yeah.
No, it's over there. It's okay. You guys can see what I'm talking about, no? And so I hope this reference and new narratives I'm creating allow us to imagine a non-dystopian future, like painting for.
Yeah, and I think, we wanted to start looking at this painting because it also bears the title of the exhibition. This is the main painting. The title is The South American Dream, the same as the exhibition. And in this work, I think this work really summarizes a lot of what you do in your work, because not only for this exhibition, but in other paintings as well, where there's this constant push and pull from the real, the factual, and the imaginative, the mythological figures, the mystic world. So here, maybe we can talk a little bit about these references. And as you can see here, each arch, oh, and that's something too, maybe I just want to point out if you haven't noticed, but this main painting has 3 arches, which you also see within the space, right? The installation has this vinyl texture on the wall, recreating this imagery, something that Marcela does a lot, recreating symbols. We see even in the dress that she wears here, it has symbols from other works that she is recreating in different spaces, in different contexts. But yeah, so talk to us a little bit about, these references, these tarot symbols, and this push and pull between real figures, historical figures, and the tarot and magical world. Yeah.
So I can explain about the composition, because I also made a glossary. You can see the numbers, the figures, but, well, the composition of the main work was developed in 3 moments, like Jennifer said. And the first moment, from the left to right, the death enters in scene. And on the mantle of her horse, we see portraits that are not familiar with, and they are mostly women environmental leaders who died defending their territory. On the top part, I painted an altar with important figure in the global south. This particular area was inspired by a very similar altar I have in my house, because I take a photo and paint it later. Now in the second part, you can move please. Now in the second part of the composition, right on the top part of the center, we see Tupac Amaru, who was the last Inca emperor in front of Wheel of Fortune. I chose to paint him because he represents a pre-Columbian resistance in an American continent. Well, Tupac here occupies a place in the firmament, connected the sky with what I understand as an animal of the world, or the earth as a female. And so the figures that emerge from the earth also make an analogy with the Judgment Tarot cards, or the Day of Judgment. And the third and the last part we have a reference to the 7 of Pentacles card as a harvest. It's almost as the skulls were planted in the first moments of the painting and are now sprouting and a luminous corn stalk.
Yeah, and I love, these moments in the painting where, especially this painting in particular, let's just go back, we almost have the beginning, middle, and end. The beginning is this figure that represents death, but more in this violent death, a death that is unexpected, that is sudden. That's why she captures these figures, these historical, these figures that were assassinated or murdered, political figures. As well as in the center, it's more of, this energy, maybe possibly returning to the center of the earth and maybe becoming something else. Or as she mentioned, a day of judgment, are these 3 figures, the 3 graces, or are they the souls returning from the center of the earth? We can go on forever and ever talking about the details here, including the world, right? We see the map, and what I love about Marcela is like everything she sees and is in contact with transforms into paintings. I remember her talking about the world here in particular, planet Earth, is that image that we might all be familiar with when you're in the plane and you're following the route of the plane, how you can see where your location is up in the sky. So she added that idea to it here. And you might be able to see little parts of the South American map at the bottom, and that horizon line as well. And then, of course, like the last part where it's also touching on this idea of death, but a more natural one, right? Where we are respecting the cycles of the earth, the metabolism of the earth, and it's more acceptable. It's a natural way of death, as opposed to to the far left side there with the skull, with the skeletal figure. So, yeah, I don't know if I have a question. I'm just talking over and over, but yeah, and you talk a lot about how you understand that this is almost like looking into the future, right? Because we read from left to right. There's this beginning, middle, and end. And what do we hope for the future? Do we hope to have more of acceptable, natural deaths as opposed to facing violence and facing the unexpected that is on the left side of the painting? So just to wrap this up, as we all saw in these references, there are a lot of tarot references, such as this one. I'm curious, Marcela, to know how did this all started? Where did tarot come into your life? And are you always using it in your work?
Uh-huh. So, well, my interest in tarot began when I was a kid or a teenager, something. And since then, I carry with me an infinity of symbols. And when I became a painter, I brought this universe with me to the canvas. Speaking of tarot, I think it's interesting to share with you this series about the queens, the minor arcana figures who represents the highest female authority in the court. And the thoughts I put on this composition work as a kind of compass for me into today. And it was in that moment I understood the power of reimagining symbols. Mm-hmm. So the models were all female friends of my social circle, with the exception of the Queen of Wands, who is the English rapper IMDb. Yeah. So the changes I made are simple, but it's significant. For example, the Queen of Air doesn't carry a sword, but a scythe. The Queen of Cups retains her more mysterious character, and therefore wears a balaclava. The Queen of Pentacles is holding a grenade, and thus operated alongside the popular uprisings, a place that is total opposite of the monarchy where the queens belongs. So many years later, I would say in early 2022, we can pass the slide, I finally released my own oracle deck. It took me 3 years to painting, a total of 38 paintings, and this oracle is not a tarot because it's not about the traditional archetypes. Each card inspired by Brazilian music, poetry, and art. It was a huge project that I conceptually elaborated in partnership with the artist Pedro Garcia, who invited me to think about the image and the symbols and created the paintings. The cover and the back of the case is my girlfriend, who modeled it for me as a pitonisa with the Urutu snake. You can see.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think we can see.
Yeah.
And I love, how many editions were these? Were there editions?
20.
Okay.
It's
Oh,
editions.
nice. And I think, we can often notice in some of your paintings, such as, you're modeling people that are close to you, your girlfriends, people close to you within your circle. But, we also notice, I hope some people notice that we also see pictures of you. Not only pictures of you, but also, like you mentioned, the altar from your house is in that painting. So how do you, how do you work yourself into the works, and why do you, how do you see the importance is to capture these very personal objects, or even yourself, like the idea of self-representation in your work?
So
And we can talk about this one in particular because,
because I
there's
am in this
definitely
painting. Yeah.
a picture of a self-portrait.
I don't know if you guys can recognize it, but I am in this painting. So I want to talk about this painting because I think it's important for me. And okay, this is the Temperance, which is a tarot card, but you can see other symbolic mentions in this painting, such as a tetramorph, which means the 4 elements of nature, like water, air, fire, and earth. For example, the fire here is represented by a black cat. It's my cat, Babalu. And the angel means the earth, the hawk is air, and the frog is water. And there is also a three-faced head that appears in some representation of the moon's arcane. This detail, it's also a reference to the depiction of Jesus in the Cuscan Baroque school, which after a certain period, these three-faced representations were prohibited by the Spanish clergy. So I want to emphasize temperance because this card says a lot about justice, but seen from the perspective of balancing feelings, and it's not purely rational, and it's about their things that are not, it's from another order. And well, I add myself as one of the three faces, joined with other women in the environmental struggle of the American continent, like Maria do Espírito Santo in the center, in the middle, and Dorothy Stang. And well, we have Ruth Buendia and Ashaninka leader from Peru. I added her on the high of the valley, work as a living armor, literally because she's alive, actually. And it's not by chance that I put myself in this painting, look at the chalice with the egg, because I think the egg serves as a symbol for life. I end up representing myself a lot of in paintings because I am usually my first reference. So sometimes the idea of the pose comes and I could appropriate an image that already exists, but it doesn't always exist, so I need to create it. In this case of this temperance painting, this outfit is mine too. It's a crazy overlay that I did. Ai, meu Deus. Well, ai, Dio mio. For the dead, about self-representation for the death, and the Ripper figure.
Oh yeah, in the first painting we saw.
The first painting, yeah, the big one, the man works. And I also use myself as a model by putting the phone on the tripod and choose my outfits also for each photo shoot. Actually, these outfits I made too with my friend, and was inspired by, especially in the big embroidered inside, the same symbols, the frog, the scythe, the stars.
And yeah, I love that this reference is, like I mentioned earlier too, that you're constantly reusing these references, even when we're thinking about the woodcut panels on the wall.
Yeah,
you were
the
thinking
star,
about,
yeah.
are there any symbols that you could use, or the symbols that you painted on the wall text too, that was painted here? There's the sun that is constantly seen in other paintings. Even the hand that's holding the banner on the wall text is it's this, right?
Okay.
It's this part of her dress. So yeah, these constant, like, I would say recycling symbols, but also reimagining them.
Imagine also, like, I believe when you repeat a symbol, you get more power to the symbol,
Yeah.
I believe like this, I created like a background of the signals, signings.
Yeah, re-signifying them. Now, I wanted to maybe move over to Well, we can talk about these a little bit too, right? This is, you might have seen the oh my gosh, the oratorio, the almost like an altar like. Aqui, ó, Chico Mendes.
Ah, tá.
Right here. But I just wanted to briefly go over these, this idea of not only working in textile. I think in this exhibition, you have challenged yourself a lot. You have worked in these oratories structures before, as we can see here. Working on wood, working on these dividers that you've done. But now in this exhibition, you have really explored a little bit. Isso tá fora de roteiro.
Tá bom, vai.
Mas pode. I just wanted, like, briefly, what were the new challenges that you brought to this exhibition, the ceramics, the work in textile, and the scale, too?
Yeah, I believe your invitation pushed me up to imagine something new. The space was a challenge, so I put myself on these risks. And was the first time I present oratorio with a ceramic piece. So for me, it's very important. And I believe the idea behind the oratorios is about create a space when I can mix in faith with fighters, So create a space of hope. This idea I had in the early pandemic periods, like in April, and I started to create this little space of hope, of reimagining fate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you see a lot, not only on just the altar piece that you created, but also the phrases that you have in each painting. Both of the oval pieces have these phrases that make you think about, almost like giving a point of action, a point of departure for us. The map. The map says, if you don't let us dream, if they don't let us dream, let's not let them sleep. And this, is another, just moving on from this idea of text. I would love for you to talk a little bit about who Chico Mendes is and what this quote represents in the exhibition, and how did you bring Chico Mendes into this conversation?
Okay, so I understand that in this painting, I have the desire to create a new mythologies from the bodies that exist and have fought struggles. It's definitely more evident here. And in 2021, I made a series of murals paintings with local children in a small town in Piauí, in the northeast of Brazil. And the Chico Mendes Institute of Biology is the main body responsible for the environmental protection in Brazil. And they were a big supporter and creator of the project. They also have a special part in the Manatee Environment Reserves. So the mural that I painted were actually about this. And Chico Mendes is the inspiring leader these days.
And the sentence too translates into ecology.
Yeah, ecology without class struggle is just gardening. It's a phrase. It's a phrase of Chico Mendes. He's really genius.
Yeah. I love that you brought that together. And sorry.
Look, and Piauí was a big moment with the children. Oh
and you often collaborate with people too, in some ways, right? With the textile works that you've done too, and bringing in people. So how is that feeling of collaborating with, children here and work and bringing people into your work sometimes?
Yeah, for me, it's very inspiring because I can see the idea from another perspectives. And I feel very connected when I work with more people, more person like friends or children's. I don't know, it's, for me, it's like the meaning of arts make together, you know. Sometimes be a painter is very solitário.
Solitary or isolated.
Solitary,
Yeah.
isolated work, but
Microphone.
I try to go in the another direction. Tá bom, filha da puta.
So you try to go in a different direction.
Yeah.
That's what you said if you couldn't hear it with the microphone. And then, as we mentioned briefly, just to, I think, end, this conversation, a lot of people ask me, like, well, how did I come across your work? And, when was the first moment? I think, I started seeing a lot of these Matre Livres, thinking about the exhibition I did with My Body, My Rules, looking at female artists that bring in strong female voices into their work. That's why I really wanted to talk about this body of work for you, because it's, in a way, it's how I found you and your paintings. And even through this, like we see here, the butterflies emerge again, that you see inside. So it's this constant reimagining the symbols. But if you can talk a little bit about Matre Livre, which I think it's such a strong body of work that you have.
Thank you. So, Matre Livre series. Matre Livre means like free motherlands. Can be, yeah, free motherlands. And I really focus on the female guerrillas who disappeared during the repression of the military dictatorship in Latin America. And I believe in the importance to bring in this image, these portraits, to these moments. We know that... Para! Tá bom, sorry. Sorry, guys, make it like... So I believe in the importance to bring these portraits to these moments, because we know that it was the United States who finances the military repression in Brazil and in Latin America as a whole, and we'll still reap the damage because many of them haven't been found until today. And my reason in painting is like find them in my painting, find these portraits, find these bodies, like this.
And I'll just go through, and this is one example too, where you're also revisiting the story of the same person.
It's the same guerrilla girl.
Yeah,
This is
just-
the Nalva.
In a different
I repeat,
painting.
sometimes I repeat the guerrilla girl.
The skulls too, I like that. This is something that we see in the South American dream, the skulls at the bottom of this painting.
And the tarot card also, no? The
Yeah.
Ace of Cups emerging. This is the Silveira.
And I love the quote that she talks about in the bottom, where the only weapon she would use with her patients is brush and paint.
Yeah, and this was a
Right.
revolutionary woman.
And I think through these two that we're seeing here, there's something about the color. And I would say that the color is also something that caught my attention when I first saw your work. You have a really strong and vibrant palette that you are able to bring it not only through the paintings, but through the textile that we see here, even through the ceramics too, even though they're like a little bit more muted, but they're still like the colors are so different and has a strong, colorful palette. So just to end, our conversation so we can open up to questions, what does color mean for you? How do you work with color, and how do you bring that into your work?
Well, so I believe that when I use a vivid palette, they has that kind of power to enlighten the subject and the whole universe of painting. So I don't know, I want to talk about life too, about the life of this woman, in a way can inspire and can, I don't know.
Bring back to
Yeah,
life.
bring
I would
back,
say.
yeah.
Yeah, and
Take a place like with color.
And I remember you saying too that, when you're talking about these, some of these are really harsh stories, right? With assassinations, murders, and the struggles that they go through. But you see it through such a colorful and positive lens. And that's, I think it brings us back to this idea of hope and dream and thinking of more of a positive, a hopeful.
Optimism,
Yeah,
yeah.
an optimist.
'Cause I believe
Future.
it's the feeling, like, be optimism, like the change and the revolution was the only way to the future, to go to the future, you know? So I believe it's like this. We have no option,
Yeah.
only the change, yeah. I believe this. I really believe.
Okay. Well, we want to open up for questions. Thank you so much. Thank you, Marcela.
Thank you,
If you have any questions,
guys. This work, I want to talk about this work I made with Brigadas Populares. Is the organization I am militant since 5 years ago, and it was a collective work. Is in Museum of Modern Arts of Rio, and it's in the exhibition now into May. Anybody in Rio? I don't know.
go check it out. It's beautiful.
Okay, if you have a question, just raise your hand and we'll bring the mic to you. Please wait for the mic so we can capture the audio for everyone that's also watching virtually.
Cara, você fica me distraindo, né? Você me fez gaguejar.
Hey, can you hear me? Okay. Thank you, Marcela. It's wonderful to hear you talk and to be here. I wonder what your opinion is about the role of the artist in the political landscape. So how, like, what the artist can offer to create political change and political awareness.
No, okay. Sorry, I think about. So I believe it's like, is it a challenge, no, to be a militant, an activist, an artist? So I don't know, we can find a way to put all this together and move on. Often, I believe, like, I know I can talk about my perspective. I teach like workshops and occupations, like with people in the housing struggle, like for kids, and introducing painting. And we go in museums. This stuff it's the way I can collaborate it, but it's a lot of ways too. I don't know. I try to use my talents talents with art to share, because I don't know how can I do another thing, only art.
I think to add to that too, which is, we talked a lot about here, is bringing these stories that I'm not familiar with a lot of these, and through your work, through the glossary that you often build, talking about these less known fighters and guerrillas and people that have fought for their ideals and through revolutions. I think that's the way, at least, that you do it.
Yeah.
To bring awareness and make us stop and look, at this beautiful work, but that has so many layers to it that one can learn from.
It's like also creating a encyclopedia, like creating a vocabulary with these portraits is important too. I don't know, like for me, at least, I don't know. And we answer your question?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hi, Marcela. I just wanted to say I really enjoyed the exhibition or the talk you gave. I wanted to ask, knowing that you were putting together this show for an audience in the United States, did it affect the types of stories and the figures and the way that you went about collecting them? And, you know, yeah, in the United States, especially, you know, you mentioned that a lot of these figures are, you know, kind of anti-imperial activists in their own ways. And yeah, did doing this for a U.S. audience, yeah, change how you thought about that?
I believe so.
Fala em português que eu traduzo.
I believe that when I bring this figure, like I devolver, como eu posso? I give it back, yeah. When I bring this woman, like I give it back. It's my answer, like a political answer. And what else? And have something. When I had been in U.S. for the first in November of the past year, during the residency at Fountainhead, was my first time in U.S. And I could visit in museums that I never had been before, and see a lot of painting. Talk about painting, like the technique and the subjects. It was really inspired, and for me, it's important to be here with the solo show because I think like people trust my work, and it's like this.
And then ela perguntou mais assim, tipo, se mudou a ideia das histórias e da figura por ser
One sec.
por ser nos Estados Unidos. Então, como você escolheu essas figuras?
Ah, tá. Tô burra, cara. So, yeah, I chose these figures, like, was a special focus on women who fought for environment. And I believe here in United is important because, I don't know, we have offensive, like we are in war. No, we are in war with United States and Amazonian. So it's important to talk about this, like people dying.
Yeah, and I remember when we were talking about this too, that you were talking, you know, when we were talking about the South American dream, like what do we have to offer? We all know what the American dream is, right? It's come here. It's more around this idea of capitalism in a way, right? And then what is the South American dream? What are our richness? They are our resources, the forest, the Amazon, all of these resources that these South American countries are so rich in. That's why you wanted to focus more on this idea of the environment, because that is this richness that we have to offer, right? Okay. Does that answer? I mean, that in a way, I think thinking about, you know, bringing her work, which is so direct and directly relevant to South America, that was the point of entry in talking about this South American dream, and how can we, like she said, offer it back or bring back this other vision of South America.
Who are behind of the landscape, you know, who maintains.
Yeah, who maintains, who fights for it.
Yeah, like I said, I like to materialize the invisible and what is behind, what is occulted.
Okay. Do we have time for a few more questions? Yeah, okay.
Linda! Yeah.
So I was thinking a lot about the like ofrenda and like the retablo, kind of like the sculptural sort of like altar that you. Oh, sorry, that's my. The altar that you have, as well as these kind of like really personal, sort of like offerings and like portraitures of these important figures and all of these kinds of different movements and environmental movements and things like that. And I was just thinking and wondering like where do you place yourself as an artist and like as someone who's speaking politically in all of your work and about these giant issues. Where do you place yourself as like a lineage? Like what is your like artistic lineage or like place or kind of like I'm trying to think of the word like like legacy or something, like I guess one part of it maybe is like kind of like what artists do you look up to, or inspire you and yeah.
Deixa eu traduzir primeiro. Ela quer falar como você se coloca assim no lugar de artista, mas com essas histórias e nessas legacies. Eu acho importante o que você falou, a sua própria representação da temperança, que você está lutando com ela, você está seguindo também.
Entendi.
E ela também perguntou sobre as inspirações, de ter algum artista que você se inspira, que talvez faça a mesma coisa que você está tentando fazer. E assim,
Jennifer, was because you're so profound, no, deep, and
microfone, querida.
I see myself as an artist, as a researcher too. So, as an activist too, and I don't know, like this painting, temperance. I put myself together of other women. I believe it's important in a way, like put myself in work too. It's also a self-representation. For me, it's important. I don't know. I don't need anybody to paint me. I am my own muse. And I don't know if I.
Yeah, I think you said, and I don't know if this will answer your question, Nereida, but when we're talking about this, that you put yourself along with these other fighters, almost in the way to carrying their legacy to, you're a militant, you're part of the Brigadas Populares group, you're almost like placing yourself not only with these figures, but you also have other artists that influence you in that way, right? That picture themselves or have.
Yeah, I think I'm more old school. Like I like old painting, incredible, but I like. And Mexican is really inspired me when I went to Mexico in 2019 to make a residence was, wow, very important to me. So I learned a lot with Diego Rivera, also with the glossaries, changed my life, changed the way I see myself as a researcher. So I think now I can share better my research with the audience.
And even talking about that Diego Rivera, that came up when we were talking about these banners, right? That we wanted to create for the space with these sayings, these really strong and important sayings that are almost in a way like calling to action. It's a lot. Calling to action or giving, a thought for us too. So I think I don't know if that answers your question in a way, but yeah, it's almost like her putting herself in, not in the same platform, but at least like the same interests, right, with these figures that you're capturing here, specifically to this painting, in a way, where you're like they believe in things that are also important to you. Yeah.
Totally, yeah, to make the legacy alive, with painting.
Okay, so we're
Yeah, I
good?
think before we give a warm thank you, I just wanted to invite you all, of course, to visit or revisit Marcela's show on the second floor, and also to please join us outside for Waxy, an all-woman, all-vinyl DJ collective that we have outside. So there's lots to do in your last hour, and please join me in giving a warm thank you and congratulations to Marcela.
Thank you so much.